What's he doing?
Is to go even further beyond!
Hey guys, and oh boy, I have a cool build to show for you. I started this build as a meme and I expected it to be kind of just okay-ish for yellow tier maps, but it ended up being so goddamn satisfying. If you have been following me for a while, you probably remember that I don't really like bows, but this build became one of my favorite builds. And you may be thinking, what the hell is happening on the screen here? And the answer is 92 hits per second is happening. And yes, I am actually using Quill Rain for endgame. And in fact, it would be very expensive to get a better bow than Quill Rain for this. Quill Rain for Galvanic Arrow in general I think is just amazing, because you do want increased projectile speed to make the cone bigger, and you can still get good damage by stacking flat damage elsewhere. I will admit this build is not very cheap. I think I invested around 5 exalts, but I do not regret a single bit. And if you want to just try this out, you don't really need it to invest that much. You only need like basically 2 items. The Quill Rain and here is Iron Body Armor. And to 6 link either of those. I'm gonna talk about items a bit later, but for now I want to just go over what I was capable of doing with this build. Also, if you like off meta builds like this and you're not subscribed yet, do yourself a favor and subscribe. My channel is all about off meta builds and experimenting with interesting mechanics. And if you're already subscribed, like and share this video to help this channel grow. Or consider supporting me through the Patreon or buying my merchandise, that would help me a lot. Now back to the build. Like I mentioned, this build is an absolute pleasure to play and map with, but of course it does get tougher in red tier maps. Nonetheless, I was able to do tier 15-16 maps including Conquerors, and I could do Awakener. However, I'm gonna show the Awakener fight. That was my only second Awakener attempt ever, but I already kind of knew the mechanics. Unfortunately, I did mess up with the storms and I could not really recover. But I think the damage was fine and it's definitely doable. I would even say it's actually pretty easy if you know the mechanics and know how to manage the storms. But the Awakener fight in general is, I think, just poorly designed. It's pretty easy, it just storms are difficult, and if you die you can very easily completely brick the set. That goes for most builds I think. Now let's talk numbers. I know that this is not the highest DPS build and not the fastest clear speed. It does feel very fast, but the clear speed is not actually that fast. And the path of building doesn't properly calculate the barrage support gem, so I had to manually calculate the DPS. And my DPS against endgame bosses is around 850,000. And I'm not using any of the awakened gems. And most of my gems are level 19. Also, because I'm hitting 92 times per second and have 15 life gain on hit, I am recovering over 1300 life per second against single target. And that is before leech. And with Val Grace I do have capped spell and attack dodge, so I can face tank a lot of things, but of course one shots happen. Now the way I am hitting 92 times per second is actually with the help of barrage. Galvanic Arrow is 2-part damage, one is a projectile and one is cone. And if you use barrage support gem, each projectile makes it also release the cone attack. Which by the way looks almost exactly like a skill from Diablo 2 Marian Exile mod called Mindflay. I'm gonna try to find a clip and include that in the video. Now like I mentioned, path of building doesn't properly calculate the barrage support gem. So you have to do the manual calculation, count how many projectiles you shoot, well not count but look at PUB, and multiply that number by 5%, because barrage support gem increases attack time by 5% per projectile. So since I shoot 6 projectiles, it would be 30% increased attack time. So if normally my attack time is 0.1 seconds, I just add 30% to that and I get 0.13 seconds. And then I divide 1 from that time and I get my actual attacks per second, which is around 7.69 attacks per second. I hope I haven't lost it with this math. It's not really important for you to remember this, just know that the PUB currently doesn't properly calculate the barrage support. So the numbers you're gonna see in path of building are gonna be bigger than it actually is. But you also need to multiply it by 2, because you do damage with the projectile and with cone. And then multiply that by the amount of projectiles you shoot, which is 6. Now with such a high attack speed, you also need to worry about your mana somehow. For me it costs around 200 mana per second. For that reason the Quill Rain is great, because you are also getting 2 mana gain on a hit. But just to be safe I got another jewel with plus 2 mana gain on hit. I also have Elder's Ring with life gain on hit, and the jewel with life gain on hit, but the jewel isn't needed if you get a ring. And that provides me a lot of sustain. Now, because Quill Rain has 30% less damage and its base DPS is pretty low, you need a lot of flat damage to boost it. Here is Iron Body Armor gives a lot of cold damage to above attacks, along with some spell and attack dodge. However, it doesn't have flat life, so getting enough life could be a challenge. Another item that gives a lot of damage is Crown of the Tyrant, which by the way is slightly expensive, and there isn't anything better in terms of damage for this. But you may go with the rare helmet, fossil crafted for nearby enemies have -9 to cold resistance, and hopefully get the helmet enchantment for Galvanic Arrow for 40% increased Galvanic Arrow damage. Since you don't really have much base physical damage, the 15% of physical as extra lighting damage isn't very worth it. Next, I bought Corrupted Drill Neck with flat cold damage to both attacks implicit. However, I just now realized that I don't have Pierce and I don't benefit from arrows deal 50% increased damage with hits and ailments to targets with Pierce. But this could be fixed with 3 passive points or a different quiver. You just want life, flat damage or elemental damage with attacks and maybe attack speed. Or actually even better, non-corrupted Drill Neck, because then you would still have Pierce. I totally forgot about this because previously I had those Pierce nodes from the passive skill tree, but later I refined it into something else. So yeah, you could definitely get a better quiver. Oh, and by the way, this is non-crit build. A crit build would be much more expensive and would probably require way more than level 91. Next, I'm using Corrupted Tom Fist with +1 to maximum frenzy charges, because this is Raider and I get a ton of benefits from frenzy charges. One ring, like I said, Elder's Ring with life gain on a hit, another ring with a lot of life and resistances, and if you can squeeze, just get elemental damage with attacks. Same goes for Amulet, life, resistances, if you can also get accuracy and elemental damage with attacks. And I did anoint Fire Shot. Fire Shot just gives damage, attack speed, accuracy. You can anoint more things, but it depends on your budget. Belt, Stygian Wise, need a lot of life, resistances, and if you can, of course, get elemental damage with attacks. And of course you need a bunch of Abyss Jewels with flat life and flat cold damage to attacks. Unfortunately, you also need regular jewels, because only they can roll life and mana gain on hit. I think I forgot Boots. Boots you can just get life and resistances. Movement speed doesn't matter that much. And I'm using Wise Oak, which means I have to balance my resistances pretty well and have cold resistance to be the highest, because this build is mostly cold damage. Then I got Quartz Flask for dodge and Sulfur Flask for a bit more damage. Now for skills and links, Galvanic Arrow is linked with Barrage Support Gem, added cold damage, elemental damage with attacks, Ice Bite, and Inspiration. Ice Bite gives a lot of flat cold damage per frenzy charge, and you have 8 or 7 if you don't have Corrupted Gloves. For auras I got Hatred and Herald of Ice linked with Enlighten level 2. You don't really need Enlighten, but it helps because you do want more unreserved mana in case you miss couple shots and drain your mana. You may also be able to squeeze in Precision low level, especially if you got Enlighten level 3. But in the end I didn't use it because I prefer to have more unreserved mana. Oh, and I also have Valgrace. Of course, Blood Reach for attack speed, Blink Arrow or any other movement ability you prefer, cast when damage taken with Immortal Call. And now, slightly funny thing is, I am using Frostbite linked with Curse on Hit, Frostbomb and Culling Strike. I just did not have enough sockets to use something else with the Culling Strike. Now the passive skill tree. Also for the Bandits, because this is not a crit build, I just decided to take 2 passive skill points. Now this is Raider. Obviously I took the Frenzy nodes and then went for the Onslaught nodes. And the rest of the passive skill tree, life, elemental damage, accuracy, frenzy charges of course. There's also cool frenzy branch I guess, which gives attack speed, movement speed and damage per frenzy charge. The minimum frenzy charge doesn't really matter. Of course I did take Point Blank, which got nerfed this league, but it is still worth taking because I am most likely just face tanking stuff and standing close to enemies. And by the way, the cone is also affected by the Point Blank. I did also take some accuracy and crit nodes because overall they just provided more DPS than other nodes. And a bit of crit also helps because Herald of Ice. It somewhat improves the clear speed and destroys corpses, which is great. Suck it, porcupines. Of course, phase acro and projectile and AoE nodes from the shadow area. The projectile speed increases the reach of the cone, while the AoE increases the kind of overall AoE of it. And you are already getting a lot of projectile speed from the Quill Rain. The passive skill tree could be adjusted slightly. It kind of depends on what items you can acquire. And that pretty much covers the build. I would love to continue playing this build, but it's kind of bad for content. So my next build actually is gonna be another buff build. and I'm gonna be playing with the Voltaxic, and I am gonna be applying the biggest shocks ever. If you didn't know, Voltaxic got slight rework, and instead of capping at 50% increased damage against shocked enemies, it has 100%. So I should be able to shock even level 8 Awakener for 100% increased damage. So for now, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.